Hello, everybody. So, two topics I want to talk about today. One is New York's congestion pricing, and the second is yet again in the beginning of the year, everyone is talking about RTO, return to office. Are they going to have to go back in? And obviously, we're seeing a lot of commentary, predominantly from the side of, no, let's not do it. I want to talk about it a bit. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to work from home for the past 5 years, since actually just prior to the pandemic. And over my time working from home for two different companies, I have found that I have mixed feelings on the RTO movement. On the one hand, I absolutely love working from home. I thrive working from home. I also overwork working from home. When I was the guy that when I worked in the office, I showed up on time, but I generally left on time. And when I left, and mind you that when I say left on time, it's within an hour or two of when technically it was time most of the time because you got to still get stuff done. But still, my work day was a generally 8-hour work day. Also, working in the office, I found, I would, uh, I think my smoking went up because I would use smoking as a way to get out of the office to go get a breath of fresh air, if you will. And, lunch breaks were effectively something I took daily to get away from my computer and get out of the office. Plus, when you show up in the morning, there's the water cooler chat. Towards the end of the day, people start chatting again too. And so the question became one of productivity. For me, my productivity is lower in an office. In a typical week working out of an office, you'd be lucky to get, 40 productive hours a week out of me. Working from home, on the other hand, has a whole different set of issues. Now, for me, one of them is I tend to overwork. And why that is when I'm working from home, I vape, I don't smoke. So I'm not leaving my computer every hour on the hour to go get away. I don't generally take a lunch break. At the most, I'll make myself a sandwich and I'll eat it at my desk while I continue working. And I start earlier because I don't have commute time, and I tend to work till about the same time I would in the evening as if I was working in an office. But the difference is because I have a full office setup at home that I grew accustomed to, I go back to work almost every night right around 10 p.m. And I tend to work till midnight, till sometimes 2 in the morning. And I do that usually 4 or 5 days a week. And then quite frequently, I'll put a couple hours on the weekend too. So working from home, I went from a 40-hour work week to generally a 55 to 60-hour work week. And mind you, the pay is not commensurate with that. Never was, right? So the question becomes, should we force people back to the office? Well, on the flip side, while there are some people like myself who find themselves much more productive working from home, there's the other side of the coin. I've managed a lot of people. Um, and what I would say is an honest estimate being a, you know, director basically of 10 staff, 25 effectively reporting to me, and seeing the productivity of people in a large company, to in the 50s, hundreds of them, that I basically got a good feel for over the years of their productivity level. I would make the argument that at least 40% of all employees who work from home are lazy and they don't put in a full work week, not even close to one, not even close to what they would put in an office. Also, on the return to office front, you have the sunk cost fallacy in the sense of lots of companies already have property, already have buildings, already have offices that they're paying for. And so they feel by not making people go back, it's just a waste of money. Now, mind you, that also a big believer in don't throw good money at bad. That's something I learned in poker many years ago. You might have a great hand going into the flop, but when the flop comes out and it's ugly, and you've already though invested a fair amount of money, say pre-flop flop, the turn hits, and all of a sudden your hands are destroyed, and you know it. And someone starts betting against you. A lot of rookie players make the mistake of throwing good money at bad. They're pot committed, is the term used in poker, meaning that they go, well, I already put this much in, so I'm going to call. And they'll throw more money into a pot that they're never going to win. And that's just additional sunk costs. It's just wasted money. Well, where the analogy fits with return to office is I think a lot of companies need to realize that even though they put this money in, even though they signed these leases, even though they bought this property, just because they put that cost in already, it doesn't mean you should put more cost in to keep something failing going. Now, the question becomes, should there be a RTO movement? And my thought is either way doesn't matter in the sense of I think what's going to happen is companies that push for return to office, they're going to get a lot of employees who will just leave because they're going to want to continue to work remote. And I think of it almost as a free market economy of labor in the sense of those who are willing to work from office will take those jobs. They'll work from an office. I think those who don't want to are going to leave those companies and they're going to find the opportunities to continue working from home. Now, what I do think is if companies want to retain their employees with a mandatory return to office, we're going to see a shift start occurring more and more. And I think what's going to happen is companies are going to have to start offering higher salaries to people working in an office to make it worth their while. So if you could get the exact same job, if you will, the same type of position, the same type of responsibilities, one is work from home and the other's work from office. I think the majority of people are going to choose to work from home and they're going to find those positions and find those companies. And we've already seen that not every company is going to do this uniformly. It's not like every company is pushing for return to office. In fact, some companies are coming out directly and saying, nope, we aren't going to do it. And they're making a big deal out of that because they're saying we care about our employees, this and that. Well, it's about a lot more than caring about your employees. A lot of it comes down to the practicalities of operating a business. And I think a lot of the issues we're seeing and why there is a big push for return to office comes back to the point I stated previously, and that is, in my experience, I've seen about 40% of employees working from home are, for all intents and purposes, robbing their employers by not putting in what's expected of them. And now, I'm not making the argument that you must sit at your desk 40 hours a week no matter what. Mind you, there's nothing wrong with insisting that of your employees, but I'm not advocating for that. I've always been a believer that if you get your job done, I don't care where you do it. But at the same time, if you're getting your job done in 10 hours a week, well, you need to be given a lot more work too, approximately, another 3 times more because you're just not working nearly as hard as you should be for what you're getting paid. No matter how you're paid, hourly salary, anything else, it's always been based on the 2,000-hour work year is kind of the rule. Well, if you're doing a, you know, instead of a 2,000-hour work year, you're doing an 800-hour work year, which, believe it or not, I would argue 40% of all, work from home people are only doing an 800 to 1,000-hour work year. They're basically working part time at best. Well, I understand why companies are getting upset at that. So I think what's going to happen is we are going to see more companies pushing for return to office. We're also going to see a mass exodus of employees from a lot of those companies. And I think how the companies are going to compensate for that is they are going to increase wages for return to office. And what that's going to do is it's going to give job seekers a choice because it'll basically standardize within the industry. $100,000 a year job currently is going to become $125,000 a year job in an office, and it's going to stay $100,000 a year job work from home. And I think what we're going to see is a natural economy of workers find out their place. Now, I think another issue though that's going to arise, and this is the part that hasn't been solved yet, is the lazy workers. With the lazy workers, it's a cancer on a company. Companies are wasting so much money paying for effectively part-time employees at a full-time rate and not getting the work out of them. I mean, it goes so far, and you might go, "Oh no, that's not true. Everybody works." No, you might. They don't all. There wouldn't be devices available that you could buy online that wiggle your mouse for you every couple of minutes to show that you're active on, Teams or Zoom or whatever you use at your company. They have those because people are cheating the systems. They have those because people are buying those to cheat the system. And it's far more prevalent than you might realize. I said, my estimates, it's close to 40% of employees in large companies are flying over the radar as part time employees while getting a full time salaried paycheck. And then I think there's another 20% who are like me that overwork when working from home. And mind you, I do that by choice. It's not a complaint. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying that that's a minority of your employees that are working harder working from home. When you are in an office, you can't hide. You are there. You are seen. You have to be there. And if you're there, you're generally going to get work done. Now, once again, if I'm in an office, I'm going to be less productive than working from home. So I'm always going to be the guy looking for that opportunity to work from home. But it doesn't mean companies should, shy away from going back. Hybrid solutions, I think, are actually the worst option, mandatory hybrid. And why I say that is where you work does matter. There's a certain level of environmental comfort that increases productivity. And if you're jumping around back and forth, you're never going to settle in and be nearly as productive as if you're just in your prime working environment. Not only that, I think there's people that, like me, are better working from home. And I truly believe that there's people, and there's lots of them, that are better working from an office. Those working from an office are always going to do better work in an office. Those who are better at working from home are always going to do better work working from home. If you try to do a hybrid solution, it becomes a thing of you make no one happy. The people who'd rather be at home are pissed off they have to go to the office 2 or 3 days a week. Those who like the office don't care about working from home, 2, 3 days a week and are just as happy in the office. And there is a large group of people that actually prefer to work in the office, whether that's for the social interaction, whether it's from the lack of distraction, or in many cases, it's just a practical situation. People don't have an office set up in their house that is conducive to getting work done. Many people I've seen work from their couch, work from their bed, work from their coffee table. And while I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I'm saying I don't think it's universally practical to get good productivity from employees when they're doing that. So I said the talk's coming, and I think we're going to see a lot more RTO pushes. And I think for companies to make that work, they are going to have to increase salaries to get anyone who doesn't, already want to work in an office to get them to go back. It's going to take a fairly big salary increase. I said my guess is it's going to be a 25% salary increase to get people back to an office and be happy with it, because people have, they've had a taste of the good life. They've been working from home for a while and they go, wow, this is great. Now, the other way it could work for return to office is that all the companies kind of do it simultaneously. Just every major company does RTO. And then people have two choices. You can either go back to the office or you can be unemployed. Take your pick. And mind you, it's never going to be blanket. There's always going to be companies that are designed from the ground up as low cost structure, work from home companies, et cetera. But the number of jobs historically have been 95% office, 5% from home, if you will. And I think if we see a shift back to where, 75, 80% of the jobs go back to office, we're going to, people are just not going to have a choice. If they want a job, they're going to go back to office. But if it's just some companies here and there, which we're seeing now, where each company's kind of making a call on it, you're going to see a mass exodus of employees, and you're going to see two types of people that are going to leave. It's going to be the people like me who would rather work from home and find a different job just for the benefit of working from home and who are going to be more productive doing so. And you're also, though, going to see those who want to fly under the radar, who have been flying under the radar, if you're a Dilbert reader, the Wallies of the world who don't want to work anyways, they're going to also mass exodus and they're going to try to find work from home jobs. So, how do you deal with the problem productivity of that 40% of employees who want to work remotely but don't actually work hard? Well, in a perfect world, you would just know and then you can summarily terminate them and find new people who will work from home and do a good job. The only methods I've seen so far for enforcing, though, are all ones that, even if they're not illegal, unethical, feel like a massive invasion of privacy. And that's always on cameras where they're monitoring you at all times, keyboard listeners where they're monitoring your keystrokes, where they're measuring every bit of your productivity. And then they can use that to say, oh, you're not working hard enough, you're out. Well, there's a couple of problems there. One, people just don't like it. Nobody wants to feel like the camera's watching them all the time. And, they'll tape their camera and then their company will tell them not to tape their camera and then they're going to quit anyways. Those solutions don't work. The second problem with those solutions is there's times where you're going to sit at your desk and you're going to stare at a screen for an hour thinking about an issue or a problem or a project. And then you're going to get up from your computer and you're going to go out for a walk for an hour while you continue thinking about that issue. And then afterwards, you're going to come back and make yourself some lunch. And then you're going to sit down at your computer. And after 3.5 hours of not typing a thing or moving your mouse, you're going to all of a sudden have 2 hours of incredible productivity. And you're going to get the project done because you put that thought into it. And guess what? I would rather have the employee who does that and has that incredible productivity for 2.5 hours after 3 hours of basically thinking and twiddling their thumbs without moving their mouse or doing anything else. If you're trying to record that person, it's going to look like a lazy employee. It may not be. So I think really where we need to go with the work from home is we need better oversight by direct managers. Know your people, know what they're doing, know what they're getting done. Stay in communication. I think the biggest thing going against the work from home crowd is their insistence on the fact that they say there's too many meetings and they shouldn't be on video. My thought is make your employees be on video every call and have a call with them every day. And in doing so, just by their demeanor, just by how they dress, just by how they act on that call, you will get a good feel for how they work overall. And then also measure their productivity in the sense of what are they producing? What is the production of your employees? And that's something that is measurable without using cameras, without using, uh, keyboard listeners or anything else. You can still measure production. What's the productive output of your employees? And you can identify which ones aren't. So I think where the big issues coming from the work from home movement are, I said 40% is lazy employees, but I think those lazy employees are flying under the radar due to lazy bosses who aren't keeping track of their team and what they're doing. And they are letting them get away with it, if you will. So for this to work, for those of us who want to work from home, I think one, you're going to have to get more serious about your job. If you're working from home, you still need to treat it as a real job. I think personal responsibility is the biggest issue in the work from home ecosystem, if you will, is that too many people just don't have the work ethic and they're not doing their job. And I think that group of people are the ones that are starting to ruin it for everyone else by forcing the return to office movement from a lot of major companies. Because those major companies are looking to say productivity's been down since we started work from home. Mind you, there is no major company that is out there that's saying, wow, productivity's gone up. We're more profitable than ever before. Our employees are more profitable than ever before since we started work from home. Let's bring them all back to the office. That would be insane. The leaders of large companies are making decisions based on data, and that data is telling them that productivity's been down since work from home. No one's talking about it from the side. Everyone either says, "Oh no, work from home's good and everybody works hard and it's the evil companies just want us back." It's not what it's about. I said there's a little bit of the sunk cost, fallacy in there. There's a little bit of throwing good money at bad involved. That's not the majority of it. The majority of it is looking at productivity and saying productivity's been down since people have been working from home. Well, why is that? People are inherently lazy and have a bad work ethic these days, is my argument. For far too many of them, enough of them to where we are seeing a big push for RTO. Well, how do we fix it? Employees, we need to get more serious about their job. They need to develop a better work ethic. Because if you take it seriously, unless you're one of those people who truly does just thrive in an office. And mind you, those people can find an office to work in. COVID's over. You can go get an office job. Anyone who wants to work from home, though, I think you need to put in more effort to not just do your job, but to make sure your superiors know you're doing your job and you need to be producing and showing that productivity. Because if otherwise, it's going to end for all of us. And I don't want that situation. I want to be able to work from home. But once, if again, if everyone goes back to office, we're just not going to have a choice. And I mostly want to talk about this to make sure that the average person realizes there is a big issue with work from home. And that issue is lazy people and lack of work ethic. And as long as that keeps plaguing the industry, one of two things either is going to occur. It's going to be go back to office, or companies are going to have to figure out how to identify those employees and terminate them so that they get the productive ones working from home, not the ones who are more than happy to just collect a paycheck while barely producing. Um, and then once again, I think if for return to office to be successful, if it's only a partial one, if it's not all, basically all the major companies doing it, if it's only some here and there, I think what we're going to have to see is we're going to have to see higher salaries for people to not just leave the company and find another job as quickly as they can. So, if you're running a business and you're thinking about return to office, think about the fact that you're probably going to have to increase compensation. And why you have to increase compensation is it's not just an inconvenience for those who work from home to go back to an office. It's a tangible expense. Off or people's current salaries, they are living within those salaries right now. If you send them back to office, their cost of living goes up drastically. I know for me, when I was working in the city, not only do you have the $400 train fare a month, not only do you have the subway fare, you have to eat. You have to, either you have to bring lunches to work or you're going to be going out to eat, etc. The costs of working out of an office is much higher for every employee. And the truth is, people live at the means they're at. So even if they were doing it before, once they moved to work from home, they adapted to that new culture and that also to those new expenses. If you want to bring them back, you're going to have to make it worth their while, or you're going to lose all your employees. So that's my take on the subject. I said I think the trend is going to be more talk than anything else. I think it's the typical new year. Let's talk about return to office. I think part of it is companies feeling it out. I think with enough backlash, etc., it might settle down. But it's not a long-term sustainable ecosystem we're in right now. Productivity's down. And I think companies are just going to get better and better at detecting that productivity and understanding that productivity, and they're going to start cleaning house. And when that happens, those employees are going to start bouncing around all over the place, trying to find other work from home jobs. And I think eventually they're going to get blacklisted. Someone's going to find a system where it's going to get known who are the good workers and who aren't for work from home, and they're going to be allowed. The good ones will be allowed to work from home, and the rest of them are going to end up back in an office because if you want to act like a child, you're going to get treated like one. So that's my thoughts for the today. Have a wonderful evening. God bless, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. Take care.